Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are here to make sense of this NBA Draft 2024. It is Tuesday as we're recording this, and we know the first round of the draft here as we get a two-night affair. Going to be on Wednesday night and then second round there on Thursday. We're going to do our best to bring you some best bets that we like here for what we're hearing with all the scuttlebutt that would be impossible not to talk about with a lot of reports from a lot of different camps. So one of the more up-in-the-air drafts that I think we can remember here over the course of the last 3 or 4 seasons. So we'll, like I said, do the best we can to make some sense of it and throw some leans your way as well, as news is going to keep dropping each and every hour, it almost feels like here, all the way up until draft time. So make sure you stay on top of that stuff on thelines.com, especially where we're keeping track of a lot of that good the stuff here with Eli and Gio and everybody looking at it. So that's where I'll head for there. Nate, let's get into the first guy we're going to talk about. We're not going to necessarily go 1, 2, 3, 4. There's so many different dominoes that could fall and impact the following dominoes that we're going to talk about what we feel comfortable with and then go through each of the leans and looks that we have for you guys as well. So why don't you kick it off for us, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, so things have moved so quickly from the time we started researching to the time we started putting these picks up, and Dalton Connect going in the top 8 was a relatively close to even money bet. Now it's minus 200, or now you have to take him to go in the top 7. I was going to look at that, but also talk about like the exact results, which is 12-1 for him to go 5th, 7-1 and still in places for him to go 7th, rather than, he's favored to go to the Hornets at 6th. But I think the Pistons could definitely take a look at him as sort of like Bojan 2.0, like a much younger bucket. Like, he is the most certified bucket in this draft. Everybody's mocking Matas Buzelis to them at 5th. In fact, right. He's about even money. He couldn't hit a 3 the entire season in the G League, and he's supposed to be an elite defender, and he had a 118 defensive rating. So, like, Tidjane Salaun, new GM for Detroit, new era, right? Dalton Connect has all-star potential. I think Buzelis is very much just going to be a role player, a 3-and-D guy, if he can get his three-point shot right. And Tidjane Salaun, the new GM, right? A sharpshooter from his Duke days, understands, the importance of having somebody who can just get buckets and survive on defense. And yeah, they talk about Connect getting like hunted at the NBA level, maybe, but I mean, he has the body to at least compete. A la like someone like Bojan Bogdanovic, who's not you would not think could survive that well on defense, but he has found a way to make a long career. So I mean, that's what Detroit needs. Like, they don't need, with Osir Thompson having been picked last year, right, to add just another pure athlete who's going to muck things up with your spacing if he's not hitting threes and bring him in for his defensive prowess. I could see Detroit actually, kind of surprising people with that. I mean, and Buzelis might go 4th to the Spurs. So we don't know there. And then the Blazers, I mean, yeah, they need like a foundational piece with some size, somebody to score. Assumedly, they're going to move on from one of those small guards and try to kind of build around Connect going forward, perhaps. Either way, yeah, I think the odds are worth it there, and that he should go in the top 8.
I'm with you. First of all, I also want to throw out Tidjane Salaun, one of the greatest nicknames in NBA history, the Alaskan Assassin. Incredible player there for Duke back when they lost to UConn in that first championship. So a little come around. But I can see everything you're saying with Dalton Connect here. I do think it's more likely that we're going to see Portland take a big man. That's who they keep getting connected to as potential centers and maybe moving on from dominating or just having him in the wings. Not really sure what's going on there, but I would agree that they could use somebody that's a bit more of a 3-level scorer and somebody that you trust to be able to hang out a little bit on the wing a lot and then be able to actually hold their own down low as well. I think one of the things we saw from Jeremy Grant not necessarily working out is that he wasn't enough to get rebounds for this team. And that's why we ended up seeing dominate and get like 15 boards a game for about a month stretch or whatever it was, where he went bananas and looked like Hakeem Olajuwon. But let me get into another big man here as we kick it off and talk about Zach Edey. That's the first place I want to look at because he's still good money to get under 16.5. He was at plus money, may have been dropping. Like, don't hold us too closely to anything here because these prices are moving at a mile a minute, to be honest. Obviously, any bit of news that comes out is going to be impacting, is going to be an impacting factor. And that's a big reason why this is a little bit tough to nail down, is you get different reports at different times. Teams are doing that on purpose at times. But for Zach Edey, like, I just think there's going to be too much of a fit, and he's the second best center available, and that's obvious. So for him to go greater than 16th. I mean, you've got the Lakers sitting there at 17. That was like that was a few places have tied him there. I don't know if that's necessarily the play, or if that he'll be there that long, to be honest, at 17. So I would still feel better about him going to a team even at 16. Like if the 76ers just wanted a backup big man, at least you're putting a lot less into it than when they took Papa Al and tried to insert him into that backup Joel role. And we know how that went, especially with them on the floor together. Not saying Edie and Joel could play together, but at 16, I would still think that's a legitimate potential landing place for him. If you look at the other potential spots that he could fall and where he's been rumored, I know Memphis is gaining a lot of steam at number 9 and continues to be the team that is probably linked the closest to him. I think Portland as well at 7 is a team that's going to be looking for a center, like I said. If Donovan Clingan falls, which we'll talk about in a little bit, if Kling Kong falls, then it's probably more likely that you take him. I think most teams are much higher on Clingan than they are on Edie. I haven't heard anything to contradict that at all. But then you've also got the potential at 10 with Utah, 12 at OKC. Even Miami has been linked to him now at 15. So I think there's like a solid 4 to 5 places that Edie could fall. He has a 29% chance, according to a few of these simulators. One was the ESPN ran one with fans, and then they also ran one with their mock professionals, sort of putting together their picks and creating a sort of model that predicted the implied probabilities of where guys would fall. He has like a 29% chance of making it past 16. So that would still say that the under is really, really good, based on, like I said, roughly 5-ish, maybe 4 comfortably teams that you think would pick him starting at number 7 with Portland.
Yeah. I told you I came into this process thinking I was going to fade Zach Edey and be like, not fall outside the top 10, like no way he's going before Clingan, which is my initial thought about this draft in like May. But when I see these odds, like for him to be 16, I think somebody's going to take a stab. Like, I mean, yeah, he's a little big. His lateral movement has been okay. Like draft workouts were apparently impressive enough that they think like he can survive on defense in space a little bit. And then the potential on offense is great. And I think the fit with Memphis, like you said, it was plus 1,600 yesterday for him to go 9th. And now it's plus 600. So obviously some people are hammering that because the fit just makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, they need a replacement for Steven Adams. That's one thing Edey can do, right? Is just be a huge dude screening for John Morant and Desmond Bane all day. The idea that Memphis would take like Ron Holland and be like, oh, we need a Tyus Jones replacement. I don't know. I mean, I think if Memphis stays put in this spot, maybe they take him. And yeah, the 10 through 15 range, like there's going to be potential crazy trades here, right? I mean, so it's not like you have to think about the exact fit for anyone with this draft. Like any team could move up there and be like, you know what, we want to take a stab at Edey, who could still be kind of a big piece of the future going forward. I mean, despite the concerns about his lateral mobility.
Yeah. Last thing I would add real quick about Edey is one number I did like was plus, he's basically 10 to 1 to go to OKC at 12. That could be a nice zone where you don't feel like you're reaching too high. You don't think they're going to look for size alongside Chet.
I just remember, Jonas Valanciunas, who's been hit the comp for Edey, getting, OKC just being like, that's great. You're getting 2s all day. Like, we're just going to roast you on the other end. And the idea that Sam Presti would be like, let's add that to our roster when he refused to get a big man at the deadline. Like, I just don't see him going that way.
Yeah, that's fair. Can we talk about Clingan then as sort of a natural segue real quick? So talking about D Kling there, DC, whatever you want to call him. Here's my biggest thing with Clingan. So if he goes number 1, I don't think it's because, well, it could be the Hawks. That would be the only way that I could see it happening, is the Hawks would rather have him. And it still seems like Reece Archie would be who they would take if they stay at number 1. Of course, just throwing it out there, the gamesmanship aspect, it would make sense that they would be touting publicly that they're taking Reece Archie in a way to potentially get the Spurs, who have also been linked even more closely to him, to come in and give them some picks to get that number 1 pick. That would be pretty solid play there from the gang out in Atlanta right now. The other thing, though, about Clingan is if he doesn't go number 1, my first question to you would be, do you think it's reasonable that he goes number 2? Because if not, then I could see him falling all the way to 7, and that can kind of lead us to some pretty good value on some bets here.
I don't think he goes 2. I mean, that's just what the odds are telling me, is that Sarr is going to the Wizards. But, again, like teams could swoop in here in the top 3. This draft is more wide open in that top range than we've seen before, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You should get some voids if there's like trades. If a team comes in and it's not the team you thought, it would be pretty sweet. Make this a little bit easier, obviously, but they're never going to give us that. I think so. Then the thing for Klingon becomes, if you don't think he's going number 1, do you think he could go number 3? I personally, as a basketball fit, can see him playing next to Şengün, who we know, as good of a player as he is and showed from the post, like he was pretty helpful. And I think it would also help unlock a guy like Thompson if Şengün is playing a little bit further out, or at least free throw line extended rather than just staying down low. So you can put Thompson in the dunker spot, then Klingon can come in and be a cleanup guy. I think he could still be a fit there. I don't think he goes 3 though, which why I'd like him to go all the way to 7, where it's 5-1 for him to get picked up by Portland. What's your thoughts there?
No, I agree. I mean, Adam Finkelstein, well-respected guy who follows everybody through high school, like the top prospects, right? He had Klingon mocked at 7. And it makes sense fit-wise, like back up Ayton for a couple of years until that malcontent moves on or whatever, and then maybe he can be a foundational piece for your defense. I don't think he. I mean, for Houston, like, yeah, he's probably a backup right away. But it's interesting, yeah. If he does go 3, I think it's because a different team swoops in, right? And that Houston's been pumping this Reed Shepherd train, and like we're definitely taking him. Basically, it could be smoke and mirrors, just like you're saying with Reece Sachet. So I mean, I'm interested in the plus odds you might get on Reed Shepherd going 4th or later, or the plus 450, 400 at least you can get on Klingon going 3rd, just because mystery team X, it could be the team drafting him at 3. You know, it might be. It's said like rumored Memphis. I don't know if Memphis is really going to give up Marcus Smart to do that, but any other team could do it if they're like, we just need this rim protector and we're willing to move up to do it. I think it's possible. And it's just like Reed Shepherd, as talented as he is, like just the physical limitations. Like he basically has the body of Peyton Pritchard, who, you know, just to take Pritchard 3rd overall, like as much as I love the guy and his competitive fire, like is just not going to be, as I keep saying, foundational piece for you going forward. Like he's a shooter off the bench for the rest of his career if he can stick in this league.
Yeah. So a play for Reed is if he goes over 3.5, 4th or later, you still get plus money on that at FanDuel, right?
Yeah.
As we're recording. Yeah. I think that's a good look. I mean, I think if he's not going, obviously if he's not going to the Rockets, who's taking him in the first 3? That makes there's nowhere that he would make more sense. So plus money for that. I think that's actually maybe my favorite play at this point, to be honest with you. Based on
and do you like more Klingon? I mean, the head-to-head at DraftKings is Klingon goes before Shepherd plus 170. So that's slight, yeah. But I think there's more uncertainty there for sure.
So the reason I might stay away from that would be I have no idea what the Hornets are going to do. But I there's no way that it makes sense to take Reed Shepherd if you're keeping LaMelo, right? Like I could see Stephon Castle going 6 before I would see them want Reed Shepherd at 6, where you don't have a guy like Stephon Castle necessarily. He's probably more like Miles Bridges than he is, the LaMelo Ball, but which is fine. You could still take him and insert him on the other wing. I agree with Reed Shepherd, like going over. The thing that would scare you is how closely the Rockets have been tied to taking him, but nobody is going to come up into the 3rd pick to take Reed Shepherd to the point that you're making. I think if you're going into the 3rd pick, it's because you're probably taking Donovan Klingon and you want to get ahead of either Portland at 7, anybody even potentially after that, to be honest. Even like if you go all the way down to, I mean, probably not the Spurs, but then, yeah, once you get to Memphis, if Memphis has Klingon in their sights, then he's done so. Like he's getting taken, right? So yeah, if you wanted Klingon, you got to kind of get ahead at least of 7 at that point. And the only place to do that might be 3, because I don't think you want to trust that he's going to go past that. So that makes sense. And Reed Shepherd, with the outs that you have for him to go above it, if for plus money, I think that's a really good look. Let's do Castle real quick though. My boy, man, brought us another chip, UConn. So for Stephon, like I don't care who takes him or why. He's going to be a good NBA player. Like he's definitely a top 6 to 7 rotation guy on a championship team. Like he will help you win and do whatever you need. In fact, that was his downfall at UConn specifically for his draft stock, was he didn't just stand out on a team that everybody touched the ball every possession, right? Which actually helped a guy like Klingon stand out because he didn't look uncomfortable with the ball in his hands in the half court situation, wherever he was playing, even out on the wing or up top. So for Castle, At this point, I don't think there's room for him inside the top 5 unless he goes to San Antonio. But let me kick it to you and see what you think about Castle real quick.
I think it's worth fading him as well, just because, when I see 90% of mock drafts saying Stephon Castle's going to San Antonio, I'm like, oh, I expect the Spurs to do the unexpected. And so if the Spurs don't take him, I don't think he fits with the Pistons at all. There is that huge money deal you're talking about for him to go to the Rockets, which is a possibility, but otherwise that means he's going out of the 5, right? So I think it's worth taking plus money on fading him there because of concerns about the jumper, because he doesn't do anything specifically like really, really well. He's just a solid all around player, role player. And maybe in other years, he would definitely be a pick in the teens. And that teams might feel that way and be like, he's not worth our top 5 pick.
Yeah. Honestly, I still think he's going to be a really good NBA player because I think if a jump shot is the thing that you need to correct, that's the most correctable thing in probably handles. But you can't necessarily give a field of the game to somebody, and he has that, right? And I think he'll continue to be able to increase. Look, if he gets even better at finishing around the rim, that's something he's already incredible at. I would say more than anything, he's Jaylen Brown to me more than anybody. That's my player comp is like. He's pretty strong. Jaylen Brown came in really strong. So he might be a little bit weaker in terms of bumping bodies with dudes once he gets down low. But I will say that like his ability to drive and pass off the drive, which shout out Jaylen for looking incredible doing that during the whole playoff run for the Celtics. That's where I would put Stephon Castle as well. Is like what impressed me the most about watching him on UConn, and that's the only college team that I watched with regularity. So I know at least what I'm talking about here with those two dudes. Like that's what impressed me more than anything is his ability to pass off of the drive and obviously finish really tough shots around the rim. Had no fear going at Zach Edey in that title game either, and that's going to prepare him for what he needs to do out here. So let me get another one from you though. If there's anything else that you're looking at, that's a potential good play here.
Yeah, I have Tidjane Salaun here as a possible top 10 pick. Really, I just identified the odds discrepancy from DK where they have a minus 140 to be a top 10 pick, but then he's plus 110 to go under 10 and a half. So, if you want to take that on principle, like as far as like his physical tools, I think he is a very intriguing prospect, but I think there's another guys crowding out this top 10 where he's probably actually going to fall outside that. What do you think of him? You nailed the Koulibaly pick last year, and I feel like this is kind of similar. It's just like a really athletic French dude with nothing but a raw skill set. And that, the Wizards took a flyer on him at 7. So, like, is somebody else going to do that? Are the Spurs going to do that at 8? Maybe.
Yeah, I know a bit more about a guy like Dalton Connect at this point, and even potentially Cody Williams. That's kind of seems to be in the mold. And even Nikola Topic at this point is a really big wild card that impacts this because of the fact that he had the ACL surgery. He's a little bit more in the mold of like Cam Topic right now. It seems like he might be getting a little bit more of the Cam Whitmore treatment where he's going to keep falling because the surgery came so close to the draft, right? The other comp would be like when Michael Porter Jr. dropped to 14 because he came in and needed the surgery, but he had the surgery like 4 months prior. So teams weren't even really able to watch him work out at all. Topic had to get the surgery like within the last month, right? So it's a little bit different situation, a lot more like Cam, where they couldn't really see Cam, but all the tape was like, this dude's an NBA player, man, and not the same reasons as Cam. Obviously, he's not the high flyer like that, but he is an incredible sort of playmaker for his size and shooter, and just really the size comes in. So that would be someone who could take away from
yeah. Just Cam Whitmore, I think, fell because of like personality and off-court stuff, right? I don't think I see what you're saying with the faller, but I don't think it was anything about his game. Just like what you see from his game, though, at the same time, right? Though is like I'm getting mine, and everybody just kind of being like, I don't know if we really need that in a team setting.
That's fair. Of course, at the same time, like the ability to go get a bucket when the offense is stalling is pretty valuable in the NBA. So I think Cam Whitmore will always have a place, but it's more about the fact that Koulibaly didn't have solid comps around him in that moment in time, where it was obvious that the Wizards, who still had Daniel Gafford and seemed like they were going to hold on to him at the time, that they didn't really need any other type of player, especially because they just spent the money on Tyus Jones. But at this point, they could also go they're not even really relevant to the conversation at this point, but this year's sort of comps would be, well, do you think it's going to be do you think it's going to be the bottom 3 of the top 10 to sort of keep at this point, I guess, keep Salaun in there. I don't think there's any room for him. This is not, I haven't heard anything from any trustworthy sources. I'll say the original person who got me thinking about Koulibaly last year was Kevin O'Connor, who I think he takes swings on the Ringers mock drafts. And I appreciate that because it at least puts plausible scenarios in your head that have long odds. And then you can find some good value that way rather than just parroting what all the other sort of mock drafts are going to have in some fit shape or fashion. So I don't like Salaun quite as much because I haven't even really looked into him. Like, I think the idea of like Devin Carter going in the top 10, especially with his ties to Memphis, that was an interesting thought to me. Was his dad's freaking Anthony Carter, who sits on the bench there. It's working out for the Brunsons in New York. I don't know if they want a little father-son combo there in that sense, but Devin Carter could make his way in there. I think Topic is still a decent play to get in the top 10. I think his stock has fallen too much publicly anyway, in terms of the public sentiment. So those guys are guys that I would rather have at this point than Salaun, who's like limited tape, didn't necessarily, jump off the page to me.
Yeah, I think, and Ron Holland too could be over him in terms of getting in that top 10. So yeah, right. I mean, I'm not making that a pick for sure. I just thought we'd talk about the guy who's just an athletic freak. I don't think Topic is going in the top 10 though, just to fire back on that. Like, yeah, no. I think this recent ACL, and it's just like, I don't know how much interest there really was from anyone in that 8 to 10 range anyway. Like, reports are the Spurs, even though he's like a Spursian dude and like has that Serbian name and all that credit, is like, oh, the Spurs. But again, like, let's not expect the Spurs to do what's expected of them.
Yep. Agreed. Yeah. I'll throw a couple more things out there that I am interested in. First of all, I'll just say the name Bronny James because maybe it gets picked up, but I don't think any of us care right now to necessarily talk about that. I did think it was super interesting that Rich Paul literally came out and said, oh, well, then if we want him, we'll just make the Lakers take him at 17. And he literally used the words, we'll make the Lakers take him at 17. Wild times. But moving past that to guys that I think are going to have careers in the NBA, I'm putting Baylor Shireman out there. I told some people in my personal Discord and dropped it in the lines as well that he was a good play at about minus 105. He's all the way down to minus 175 to be picked in the first round. But man, he's got, like, I know that when a white dude is a lefty, we're going to compare him to another white dude who's a lefty, but he looks like Joe Ingles playing basketball. I mean, his shot is the exact same spot on his body. And he's a better rebounder than Joe and a worse passer, but still very good at both. And so I just don't think there's any way. His odds actually got nuked because he got linked to the Celtics. And they were like, yeah, if he's at 30, we're going to take him. And he ended up having, according to some of these mock drafts projectors, about a 4% chance of still being left at 30. So that all that kind of stuff kind of nuked his odds. But I still think that's one that I'm willing to take at minus 175 that he gets taken in the first round. And the only other guy that I wanted to bring up briefly, Nate, before we close this thing out for a bit is Cody Williams, because Cody Williams, younger brother of Jalen, a bit bigger, not quite maybe with the same like leap and speed, but he's a very good athlete in the open court, and he could be a really solid player in the top 5. He's still plus 350 to go in the top 5, which basically we're saying, do you think he's going to go to Detroit? Because Detroit has been linked to him more than anybody, and he worked out for them and seems to have at least somewhat of a, not necessarily promise, but seems to have some like positive feedback according to reports from Detroit. Anything for you on the former Buff star, Cody Williams?
I just have to say, I can't believe people are typecasting the Celtics to pick the best white dude available at 30. That's apparently why we're nuking those odds. They have enough white dudes off the bench at this point. But yeah, as far as Cody, I think he's a great player. I think it would definitely be a reach to go in the top 5 there. I think maybe more likely it would be a nice scenario if he falls all the way to 12, right, and winds up getting drafted alongside his brother. That's all I think right there. I mean, his odds 8.5 are even either way. So I think that's kind of a lot of uncertainty as far as like books being like, I don't know, have at it.
Yeah, for sure. That would be the only thing. And you might as well take him plus 400 then if you're going to take him to go top 5. Like, he ain't going before the 5th pick, and nobody's moving up to pick him. So it would basically just be Detroit taking him, and he'd be a good fit. He would fit a lot of needs. You mentioned Boyan no longer in Detroit, so that would be helpful for him to be able to get that. But and then last thing, who benefited the most from the Josh Giddey, Alex Caruso trade? I say the Thunder. But what's your thoughts real quick on that? Did you like that trade?
That is a very lukewarm take from you. Yes, obviously the Thunder benefited more. It's a question of whether you want to like get some Thunder futures down now at this point, because they're going to be a really tough playoff team if they get all these dudes healthy, for sure. So I mean that's intriguing. Let me fire back at you. Like, where are you leaning with the Klay Thompson next team market? Because that is kind of wide open.
I also want to say, not a lukewarm take. I like the trade for Chicago. I don't hate it by any means. Like, I think
nobody cares about Chicago.
Helpful. No, that's fair. Okay, nobody wants to talk about Chicago. That's fair. Maybe we'll take some Pat Williams talk next September. Klay Thompson, the interesting thing to me is that he makes the most sense as someone that you package in a trade. That's the most interesting part to me. This is like it though, right? Because this is the last year, and he's been asking for the max, and it ain't coming. I think he's comparable to a dude getting 20 mil a year should be it. Honestly, like 20 mil for 3 years. They wanted him at 20. They were offering him 24 for 2 years, but that ain't happening. So I don't think it's like Orlando. I think he wants to stay on the West Coast is a huge part of this. And I think no matter what happens in the negotiations, as much as the Warriors are not like, we're going to nuke our future for you, Klay, which good on them, to be honest, they are also like, they're at least willing to work with him to get him to where he wants to go. Makes the most sense for him to end up on one of the LA teams. That's really it. And the Paul George noise is loud right now in the Bay Area for him to end up in Golden State. And that's going to have to include either Draymond or Klay. Draymond's already got his deal. Probably going to be like a Klay and Chris Paul thing. And then you just cut Chris Paul after paying him 30 mil if you're Steve Ballmer. I see him ending up in the Western Conference.
That would be shades of Ray Allen if he just goes right to his rival for the Clippers there. But I don't know. I think he'd rather play with LeBron, right? I mean, and JJ Redick being interested in getting a guy like that. The Lakers do have the third shortest odds there. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting summer to see. But you think, like, yeah, probably not going back to the Warriors at this point. Is that relationship over?
Yeah, because he's not going to take that amount of money, and specifically from them, he might take it from somewhere else. But don't worry about the Eastern Conference stuff. I don't think you bring Klay into Orlando and just start having him chuck up shots. He's not going to. He also isn't going to fit into the defense there. There's not necessarily the need to hide him on defense, but you ain't getting Klay Thompson shut down the opposing wing kind of stuff. So. Can I ask you one more? Did you have a thought on OKC and who they might need with the ability to obviously pick up a bunch of guys if they want? Is there anybody that you think is a solid link to the Thunder?
This offseason, adding somebody? I mean, I'm not going to try to figure out what Sam Presti's going to do, because, I mean, they clearly – I think they go for it this year, but like everything indicated at the trade deadline last year that they're like, let's go into the playoffs and lose. Like, we're just going to add Gordon Hayward. We're going to leave Chet out there to get knocked around like a rag doll and give him no backup big, basically. And just like you're going to get some learning experience. So, I mean, I still don't know what the inner workings are of that process that the Thunder are going through, if they think they're ready yet. I mean, the Caruso trade definitely indicates they do. So, I mean, yeah, they got to add one or two more pieces here, probably. Certainly can do so through the draft with all their picks or trade some of those. But they're definitely a team to look at backing here when we get like win totals and futures looking. Yeah.
Yep, there's some offshores that started with 10-1 for the Thunder to win it all this year. I think that was their opening odds for most places. If the Thunder get Lauri Markkanen, I just hope I can get another bet down on them to win the championship before they actually do that, because I think wherever Lauri Markkanen ends up is going to be a team that, I mean, I know it's going to be instantly a contender. I wish I could put a bet down on like whoever ends up with Lauri Markkanen this season ends up in the finals. Honestly, like that's how much I think he's going to help a team over the top. Like he's that type of player. So it's going to be a fun offseason though, man. Also got Hemi Butler out there. PG's probably not going to be a Clipper again. It's kind of what it seems like. So we'll see some moves here, but that's all the time we have for you on a little draft and a little bit of offseason NBA talk. We'll be coming back to you guys as soon as we have some more NBA stuff to go on. And obviously when that NFL season gets started as well, we've got those weekly picks for you with those player props in the NFL. So until we see you next, happy betting.